Welcome back to Capital Catch-Up, your insider guide to the halls of Congress. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. It is a packed week on the Hill, Victor. We are looking at a legislative calendar for early February 2026 that is absolutely bursting with energy policy, fierce debates over District of Columbia autonomy, and significant moves towards transparency and government.
Bursting with energy is right, Lenny, both figuratively and literally. We have to start with the massive push on energy resources. The House is moving forward with House Bill 1949, the Unlocking Our Domestic LNG Potential Act of 2025. This bill is designed to repeal restrictions on the export and import of natural gas.
That's a major pivot. Proponents are arguing this will lower prices and help allies abroad, while opponents are raising red flags about the climate impact. But that's not the only energy bill. We also have House Bill 3109, the Refinery Act. This directs the Energy Secretary to have the National Petroleum Council report on petrochemical refineries. It's essentially a health check on our refining capacity.
And it seems the legislative strategy here is to clear the deck of regulatory hurdles. We're seeing a flurry of disapproval resolutions, specifically Senate Joint Resolution 80 and House Joint Resolutions 130 and 131.
For our listeners who might not be policy wonks, can you explain what these joint resolutions of disapproval actually do?
Definitely. Under the Congressional Review Act, Congress can overturn federal agency rules with a simple majority. In this case, they are targeting the Bureau of Land Management. House Joint Resolution 130 targets a rule regarding the Buffalo Field Office, and House Joint Resolution 131 targets the Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program. Basically, Congress is trying to roll back Biden-era conservation rules to open up more land in Alaska and elsewhere for drilling.
It's a classic tug-of-war between the executive agencies and the legislative branch. And speaking of tugs of war, we have to talk about the slate of legislation targeting the District of Columbia. We have House Bill 5107, the Common Sense Law Enforcement and Accountability Now in D.C. Act, and House Bill 5214, the District of Columbia Cash Bail Reform Act.
This is always a constitutional flashpoint. The Constitution grants Congress exclusive jurisdiction over D.C., but since the Home Rule Act of 1973, the city has largely governed itself. These bills represent Congress stepping in to override the D.C. Council. House Bill 5107 would repeal D.C.'s recent policing reforms, and House Bill 5214 would mandate cash bail for violent crimes.
The argument from the sponsors is that crime in the capital has become a national issue requiring federal intervention. The pushback, of course, is that this undermines the democratic will of D.C. residents. It's a tension we haven't seen run this high in decades. And all of these, the energy bills, the D.C. bills, and the disapproval resolutions, are being packaged for floor consideration under House Resolution 879.
House Resolution 879 is the rule which sets the terms of debate. Interestingly, that rule also includes House Concurrent Resolution 58, denouncing the horrors of socialism.
That feels more symbolic than substantive, doesn't it?
It is. A House Concurrent Resolution doesn't become law. It expresses the sentiment of Congress. It's a messaging bill, likely designed to force members to go on record regarding their economic ideology ahead of the midterms.
Moving from ideology to investigation, there is significant movement regarding the Jeffrey Epstein case. We have House Bill 4405, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and House Resolution 668, which directs the Oversight Committee to investigate the mismanagement of the original federal probe into Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
This is huge. For years, the public has demanded to see the full picture of who was involved and how the justice system potentially failed. House Bill 4405 suggests a bipartisan push to finally rip the Band-Aid off and release those documents.
Transparency seems to be the theme of the week. There is also a fascinating bill, House Bill 6049, the No Payola Act.
Payola? Now that is a term with some history. It goes back to the 1950s radio scandals where DJs were bribed to play certain records.
Exactly. This bill updates those statutes for the streaming age, trying to prevent major labels from essentially buying their way onto playlists and algorithms. It's a big deal for independent artists.
Let's shift gears to the committee rooms. The schedule for the week of February 10th, 2026 is intense. The Foreign Affairs Committee is holding hearings on lies, lawfare, and leverage, focusing on the Chinese Communist Party's manipulation of Taiwan, as well as a hearing on foreign influence in American nonprofits.
And on the domestic front, the Education and Workforce Committee is diving into building an AI-ready America to look at safer workplaces. Plus, there is a critical hearing on the science of reading. Given the national conversation on literacy rates, that one is going to be watched closely by educators and parents.
We also see the Appropriations Committee grinding away. House Resolution 672 is setting the stage for House Bill 4553, the Energy and Water Development Appropriations Act for 2026.
This is the Keep the Lights On legislation that funds everything from the Army Corps of Engineers to nuclear security.
And we can't forget the personnel. The Senate is moving through a heavy slate of nominations. We have judges like Justin R. Olson for the Southern District of Indiana and Nicholas John Ganji for the Southern District of Texas.
Also, Daniel Edwards has been nominated as Assistant Secretary of Transportation, and John DeLeeuw for the National Transportation Safety Board. These aren't headline-grabbing names, but these are the people who will actually be writing the regulations on the ground for the next few years.
Before we wrap up, I want to mention the Congressional Daily Records. We've been reviewing volumes 172, numbers 20 through 24, covering late January through February 3rd. If you want to see the specific remarks members made on these bills, or track how the No Pay-All Act was introduced, that is where you look. It's the official receipt of democracy.
So, what should our listeners watch for in the coming days?
Keep an eye on the vote count for House Resolution 879. Since it packages the controversial energy bills and the D.C. crime bills together, it will be a major test of party unity. Also, watch for the markup on the Doing More with Less hearing in the Oversight Committee. It sounds like a prelude to budget cuts.
And I'll be watching the progress of House Bill 4553. If the Epstein Files Transparency Act passes with a veto-proof majority, we could see significant revelations very soon.
That's all for this week's Capital Catch-Up. Thanks for listening.
Stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.